I didn't start painting until I was 27 years old. It actually was like a rock bottom moment in my life that led me on this journey of painting. When I was about 18, 19 years old, I started to go through some really difficult things in my personal life and started to have some struggles, really not knowing how to deal with those things and how to process what I was going through, not really having anyone to talk to about it. Instead, I just kind of shut down, hit this rock bottom where, I'm super isolated in my life and my relationships in my life are just like crumbling. And I go to see one of my senior pastors at the church that is still my home church, Church for the Nations. And I remember going in with like this list of all the things that I thought that I was like, all right, these are the things that he's, that I'm going to fix. And I'm thinking like that he's also going to give me a list of things that I needed to do, right? So I go in and I just share everything with him. I pour out my heart with him. And I just remember like it was the first time in my life that I experienced grace, that I understood what grace was. I stood across from him, and instead of judging me and giving me this list of to-dos, he listened. He was full of compassion. He was helping me to understand some of the things that I was going through. And we were in there in the first meeting for an hour, and I probably talked for like 55 minutes. I remember looking at the clock and like thinking, oh my goodness, like I only have like 5 more minutes to get in everything so that I can hear what he has to say for the last portion. I went home and I remembered that he had said like, whatever you're passionate about when you're younger, a lot of times that has to do with what you're called to do in your adult life. So I asked him if I could show him my drawings. I told him I went home and started drawing, and he's like, yeah. So I pull out my phone and I start showing him pictures, and he looks at me and he said, you're really good. And I said, I want to paint. That's what I really want to do. Like, I want to learn how to paint. And he just looked at me and he said, these very simple but powerful words, which is his style. But he said, when you go home to paint, I want you to know that it's God's work flowing through you. So I go home, and it's right when I get home, I just set up on the little kitchen table, dining room table. And I set up this little table easel with these little paints that I got at Walmart. They're like dollar paints. They might have been like the apple barrel paints. Like I set up and I have no idea what I'm doing. And I just pour my paints and I do a Bob Marley painting. And it's just a little, probably 11 by 14. It takes me 2.5 hours to do this painting. And when I'm finished, I couldn't believe it. It's like, oh my goodness, I am an artist. I'm like, I actually know how to paint. And I sent him a text with the picture of my painting. And I'll never forget his response. Dr. McCrae he said, wow, that's really good. Is that a worship artist? And I was like, not exactly, not of the sort that you're thinking of. And so he had no idea who Bob Marley was, but that night I did a second painting. And then the next day I did 2 more. So in the first 24 hours, I did 4 paintings. It was just incredible. It was a really cool testimony of what could be locked inside of us when we're shut down by shame. And that on the counter, what could be unlocked in us when we're freed by grace. It was nothing that I could ever do to earn the grace that was paid for on the cross by Jesus. There's nothing that I could ever do to earn that. But because I had an experience where I understood how powerful God's grace is, it literally had the power to break the shackles of shame that were binding me down, suppressing all of the creativity that was inside of me. So when that floodgate opened up, it really changed my world. And it changed the way that I not only viewed myself, But to this day, it changed the way that I view others. That's how I started painting. I just want to encourage you that there might be things in your life that you put down for a season. Maybe it's art, maybe it's music, maybe it's writing, anything that you're passionate about. Maybe you've put these things aside and thought, you can't use them, or that God's not going to use you. I want to speak to you today and say that God absolutely can use those things. And just because you put them down doesn't mean that you cannot pick them back up again. When I picked up that brush and I started painting, I remember smiling and speaking to God and almost like laughing a little bit, saying, God, when you spoke to me when I was 17 years old, and you called me and you told me you were going to give me a worldwide ministry and business would be the stepping stone into that, you knew I would go through what I went through. And to this day, one of my favorite things about God is how faithful he is. That when he says he's going to do something, he absolutely does it. And I think the only thing that he wants from us is for us to walk close to him and to trust him. Even when it's difficult, even when it's hard, even when you want to give up, even when you fail, stick close to him and let him continue to work on you. So I hope this encourages you. That's how I started painting.